At many seders throughout the world this year, families added an extra chair to their table, a seat which was intentionally left empty. The guest, who would never arrive, was the Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who was arrested in Russia on a false espionage charge. That empty chair was a symbol of the Haggadah's most urgent lesson, the responsibility of redeeming those who are in bondage or oppressed. All that we have learned from our ancestral experience was represented by Evan Gershkovich's absence. But that is not the only time there has been an empty chair at my Passover Seder table. 24 years ago, my father died on Erev Pesach, and as we hurried to pull together a Seder in the midst of grief, the most important and enduring symbol was that empty chair. That night, no one sat in my father's place. No one removed his chair from the table or reconfigured their own seat. In his absence, our loss was evident, made almost tangible by vacancy. His empty chair was our Haggadah. At that Seder, the question we sought answers to was Passover's own. Why? Why, we asked. V'higadata levanecha, you shall tell the story to your children. Every year since, his story has been bound up with our people's story, though the lessons we carry are not only the freedom from liberation, but the bondage of sorrow and the blessing of memory. The Seder's painful rhetorical question, why, evolved over the years to become an entire liturgy of answers. Our stories have become a Haggadah of memory, which sustains us in every season, year after year. For everyone who has come to say Yizkor, each of you has faced the sorrow of an empty chair. Perhaps it is at the dining table where the day starts or ends, or a desk chair that has suddenly gone unused, or even a lounger, which may have been their special place to hold court. Perhaps the empty chair is the place beside you right now in the pews. And when we face that absence, what is it that we yearn for? Another opportunity to share, to lean on one another, to be strengthened by their encouraging words, to meet a joy or challenge together, to continue to make memories. There is a poignant story in the book of Samuel when King Saul invites young David to a banquet in celebration of the new moon. David is cautious because Saul is mentally unstable and he believes that David is trying to usurp him. So David decides not to attend, even though it may mean that he and Saul's son, Jonathan, his dear friend, may never see one another again. Jonathan tells David, "Your chair will be empty. You will be missed." Your chair will be empty. In a well-known therapeutic technique, psychiatrists occasionally place an empty chair opposite a patient and invite them to imagine their loved one is sitting across from them. If there are unresolved conflicts, the patient may talk them through. And if there is sorrow, the conversation can be a way to reconnect. The technique evokes the beautiful passage in the Haggadah about reconciliation, in which Malachi assures us of God's plan. Behold, I will send the prophet Elijah to you, so the hearts of parents may be turned to their children, and the hearts of children to their parents. Elijah the prophet is the eternal messenger of hope. That vacant seat may just open a path to healing. And it is through Rabbi Nachman of Bratslaw's own chair, which sits empty in the Bratslav synagogue in Jerusalem, that we are reminded of a lesson that he taught. He said, if you believe it is possible to break, then believe it is also possible to fix. If that is true of objects, is it any less true of our hearts? Here is the famous story, a true story about Reb Nachman's empty chair. In the early 1800s, a butcher who lived in the town of Teplitz presented the Rebbe with an exquisite handcrafted chair. Everyone who saw it knew immediately that the chair was something special, and so it was placed next to the ark as a seat of honor. It was there from his special throne-like chair that Reb Nachman would teach, and his disciples would learn from his stories. After Rabbi Nachman died, his disciples honored him by keeping his chair in the very same place, near the ark in the synagogue, where it remained for decades until the Cossack uprisings against the Jews of the Ukraine in the 1920s. The descendants of Reb Nachman's disciples realized that in order to save themselves, they would have to leave. But what should they do about that special chair? They didn't want to leave it behind, and it was too big for any one to carry. And so they cut the chair into pieces. Each descendant of his disciples took one piece of the chair, and before fleeing, they made this promise. They would meet again in Jerusalem, and there they would reassemble the chair. Miraculously, every single person who carried a piece of that chair survived and arrived safely in the city of Jerusalem. Each one had something to hold on to and a purpose to fulfill. Once there in the holy city, they reassembled the chair so it looked exactly as it did in the time of Rabbi Nachman himself, and where, though empty, it sits in a place of honor again next to the ark. Each disciple had something to hold on to and a purpose to fulfill. What is ours, we who have empty chairs, not of honor but of sorrow? V'higadata levanecha, you shall tell and retell the stories to your children. Along with the story of our people, let us share our Haggadahs of memories, for they are woven together through their values which endure, the love shared, and the joys that remain. Rabbi Nachman also used to teach, you are wherever your thoughts are. So let us hold on to our memories the way his disciples held on to those pieces of his chair. And at times like these, we put the pieces back together. As we move into the memorial service, may we embrace these moments so what was empty will briefly be filled again. Yehi zichronam livracha, may their memories endure as our blessings and fill our hearts again.